Through the Gates is produced under the support of the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management to enhance, promote, and defend the North American model of wildlife conservation and responsible wildlife management. That's our mission. We're engaged in fighting at every level so that wildlife management remains science-based and conservation continues to work for our wildlife. To learn more and join the movement, visit SaveTheHuntColorado.com. The North American model of wildlife conservation is the greatest conservation model in the world. It's a success story that should be shared and celebrated because everybody is a part of it. Well, we've got another episode of Through the Gates to Save the Hunt. This is kind of a compilation of somewhat happened at the Outdoorsman Days event on August 8th and 9th in Florence, Colorado. And we're going to get into a little bit of the weeds with Fred Eichler and also Ralph Cianciarulo. We had some fabulous presenters that came in and dedicated their time and effort. And Fred and Ralph and Vicky Cianciarulo were three of the individual contributors and presenters. And we had Laramie Sasquatch Miller and Ray Livingston, and we had Sam Westfall on site, and Heidi Stout came in from Idaho. Jenny and Jeff Burby did a packing demonstration, but Fred and Ralph, we had a chance to get together and have a conversation with and actually do a short podcast with each one of them. So that's going to be in this particular edition. This is an interesting week that we're transitioning into, and it's almost up to date to the point to where the General Assembly started their legislative session yesterday on the 21st. It's a special session that the governor ordered about the $1.2 billion deficit that's in the state of Colorado. And there's a bill that was introduced by multiple legislators from the west and east slope and throughout the state to put a pause on wolf introduction and take some of that introduction money from bringing wolves in from out of state or out of country and applying that money to rural health care issues that need to be addressed. So we're going to see how some of that plays out. And I'm sure that with this special session, you're going to hear a lot of things through the press, a lot of things from the wolf proponents and advocates, and at the same time, a lot of things from legislators. And I want to emphasize that the legislators that were sponsors on this particular piece of legislation were not all just from the Western Slope, and they aren't all just Republicans. They see that the wolf introduction has drawn a significant amount of scrutiny and concern because of the way things have played out over the course of the last 5 years. And keep in mind that I sat on the stakeholder advisory group myself, the stakeholder advisory group for wolf introduction, and I was on that for 16 months, and the plan of action that was laid out and the course of action that was intended has not necessarily been adhered to. We've done some podcasts with Doug Brochet and Tim Richard, and also Amanda Cerveny and Nikki Day. And we got some pretty good, heartfelt, I guess, thoughtful presentations from those individuals because they've had to deal with wolf issues since, well, going all the way through last year up in the Middle Park area with the Middle Park stock growers. And now that Copper Creek pack has become, I guess, part of the Capitol Creek pack after they were captured because of depredation issues up and around Middle Park. And then they were put into captivity, hoping that maybe their challenges would change on what they were trying to do for survival. Granted, it was survival, but it's not supposed to be survival on livestock and when it comes to human health and safety issues. But that pack was captured, put into captivity, supposedly maybe on probation or some sort of a solitary confinement to change their ways. And then they were released into the Pitkin County area almost immediately. They started creating depredation issues there. One of those wolves has since been taken out, and now another one has been attempted to be taken out by Colorado Parks and Wildlife to change and alter the pack's habits and their day-to-day lifestyle about depredation. So there are a lot of things going on. We got the CWCP meeting that went on, the Colorado Wildlife Conservation Project meeting that went on. That's 26 different state, national, and regional organizations that have come together to form that alliance that we started back in 2022 on the eve of Senate Bill 31, which was the attempt through the legislature, through the animal rights extremists through the legislature, to ban the harvest of bobcats and mountain lions, which we defeated 4-1 after we defeated the Bobcat Citizens Petition in 2019, 2020, and also forced them to withdraw it in 21. Well, then they went back to the legislature in 22, and we beat them there. And subsequently, they went back to the voter, give the voter a chance on Initiative 91, which became Proposition 127, and which we beat handily 55 to 45%, but it has not deterred the extremists in all of these conversations, and they continue to try to do what they think that they need to do, and we continually try to put up a roadblock and a moat, so to speak, that they have to cross and get through. It's getting more challenging. They've got a lot of steps ahead of them that they're trying to accomplish in the next 18 months of this governor and the first gentleman's term, which will be in November of 2026. And then they will be out the door on January 12th, 2027. So hopefully we can hold the wolves at bay, no pun intended, up until then. But there's a lot of things on the landscape, and some of the conversations that we get into with Fred Eichler and Ralph Cianciarulo on this particular episode of Through the Gates will allude to some of those conversations as well. The legislative barbecue is actually tonight at the Colorado State Fair, and doesn't look like we're going to get a hell of a lot of legislators because the governor called the special session. So Water Congress was going on in Steamboat this week, and doesn't look like there's going to be any legislators there because the governor called the special session. Couldn't have waited till next week to call a special session, I guess, because well, there wasn't anything going on next week that legislators would have been sidetracked or obligated to attend. But now they're all at the Denver Capitol, Colorado Capitol, and they're discussing a variety of things. But the wolf issue is one of the biggest ones on our side, even though it doesn't have a lot to do with the money side of it. It does have to do with process and procedure and financial capabilities and sustainabilities as well. I wanted to mention real briefly before we get into the Fred Eichler podcast, and then we step into the Ralph Cianciarulo podcast. You know, I'm sitting on this beaver focus group about creating a statewide beaver management plan. And anybody that's listening to this or around the country in the West, they know that there's conversations about beavers being a keystone species, which they are, and that there needs to be a strict adherence to management or maybe restrictions or prohibitions on harvest. And I can tell you from a trapper's perspective that we've got more beavers now than any time in my life in the state of Colorado. And while I don't think that it's unnecessary to be aware of the legitimate benefits that beavers provide, there has to be a management side of things from my perspective, from our perspective on the consumptive use side. Now, if any animal rights extremists are listening to this, they would probably disagree with that, because everything needs to live in holistic, organic balance, and we shouldn't screw with anything. Well, I've said this many times over the course of the last 18 or 20 months, 5.9 million people, 84 million annual visitors to the state of Colorado. There's 33 agricultural-related properties in the state of Colorado, 33,000 agricultural properties related to agriculture in the state of Colorado. A lot of people like beavers. Most of the ranchers and farmers I know love beavers until they mess with them. They mess with their irrigation. They mess with their crops. They mess with their river or stream flows. Beavers provide a substantial benefit, and we're trying to figure out through this management plan what we can do to help create an opportunity for further management. I think that the average person doesn't realize how undermining or agenda-driven these particular conversations are. But when you really get into them and you sit in it, like I'm on the Fur Bearer Working Group, on the Beaver Management Focus Group, until you actually realize where somebody comes from and their perspectives, it's hard to understand what they're trying to accomplish. But in these particular circumstances, the restriction or prohibition of harvest, avocational harvest, is of their main concern, because they think that we're going to continually trap things out or harvest things out and extirpate things. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. I'm 61 years old. I've been trapping for the better part of 45 or 50 years. And I can tell you that what I've seen in my time, because of habitat loss, because of fur prices, because of people aging out, because of the cost of vehicles or the cost of traps or public and private land access or restrictions and prohibitions that are already in place, our fur bearer populations, from an anecdotal boots on the ground experience level, are better now than what they were 20 and 30 years ago. Now, does Colorado Parks and Wildlife know every single animal that we have? No, they don't know every single deer or elk or sheep or bear, but they damn sure don't know every single coyote or bobcat or red fox or short-tail or long-tail weasel, or pine marten. There's 17 species of fur bearers in the state of Colorado under that classification, Chapter 3 under the regulations. Beavers we can't talk about during the fur bearer working group because of the beaver working group management plan, the statewide management plan. But I can tell you that the assumptions or the illusions or the allegations or innuendos or insinuations from our opposition, I don't know whether they actually believe that we're in the process of extirpating things or they just don't want us to harvest anything, but I think it's probably they don't just want us to harvest anything. There's no extirpation through regulated harvest over the course of the last 100 plus years. Now, was there problems back in the 1800s? You bet, but there wasn't regulations. There wasn't oversight. There wasn't management. It was pretty much willy-nilly, free as you go, take what you want, until sportsmen and women, conservation-minded sportsmen and women, and legislators and game managers that were established back in the 1870s in Colorado made the decisions to start imposing rules and regulations, laws and regulations pertaining to the harvest of all game species and the management of all species combined, whether they were part of this determined game species or not. Now, our opposition, the people from Cats Aren't Trophies or Project Coyote or Wild Earth Guardians, whatever one of the 150 plus organizations you want to pick, they might acknowledge that offtake is necessary in some circumstances, but they don't acknowledge very often that harvest is part of that offtake. And I say harvest from an avocational standpoint. The avocational standpoint, recreational harvest, consumptive use is different than conflict resolution and habitat modification or restoration or translocation or whatever. Colorado Parks and Wildlife has done a formidable job, even when it was the Division of Wildlife and even when it was the Game and Fish. And while they've adapted as much as what they possibly could, they've also been cognizant of the changing landscape with 5.9 million people. Keep in mind that back in 1996, when Amendment 14 passed to ban the recreational utilization of foothold traps, body gripping devices, and cable restraint devices, that was done to turn around and try to stop what they didn't want to happen. So we had to go back to using cages and start using cages in some circumstances. So the only form of recreational harvest outside of legal methods of take with shotguns and pistols and rifles and bows and crossbows or whatever, the only recreational harvest when it comes to fur bearers is cage traps. That's it. That's all we've got in the state of Colorado. So they're fighting to turn around and stop the utilization of cage traps. Now, not all animals can be harvested very easily with cage traps, and you can do it sometimes, not all the time. Specific animals are a little bit more susceptible, but regardless of their susceptibility to the utilization of cage traps, regulated fur bearer management is something that has gone on significantly that I've been a part of all of my adult life and most of my childhood because of the season structures, because of the tagging requirements, and because of the oversight. Now, CPW doesn't have to know how many bobcats we have. They just have to know that we have a sustainable population. And if you can continue to see a growing population and see harvest, whether it peaks and valleys for a variety of different reasons, those are things that Colorado Parks and Wildlife has done a formidable job of that the average person, the general public, doesn't understand, and the antis don't agree with. The extremists don't care about the facts and the data, and that's what we're trying to impose during these working group processes to say, if you're going to attempt to try to change something, give us the facts, give us the data, give us the science. They're professing to follow the science, just like what we alluded to during Proposition 127. They're professing to let Colorado Parks and Wildlife do the management and not let politicians do it. Well, if you're not going to let politicians do it, let's not let the general public do it. Let's let the experts do it. I'm going to continue to update through these processes over the course of the next 3, 4, 5 months as some of these working groups play out. But I can tell you that the facts and the data that has been supplied from a historical and traditional side through Colorado Parks and Wildlife, formerly the Division of Wildlife, formerly Game and Fish, what they've done is try to adapt management procedures for 960 plus species of wildlife. to make sure that those populations are sustainable and make sure that they can be managed for all, as it says in 33-1-101. Those are components of the mission of Colorado Parks and Wildlife. And it doesn't say for some, it says for all. And if I want to be able to legally harvest through a regulated season for specific species that the agency has determined through science, whether it's post-harvest, pre-harvest, during harvest, through the science, then I should be able to continue to do what I do because the scientists say that's the proper way to manage wildlife. Now, if the scientists come back and say, hey, we've got a problem with short-tailed weasels or pine marten, I'd be the first to stand up as the president for the Colorado Trappers and Predator Hunters Association and the executive director for the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife and say, we need to do something different. But as somebody who's boots on the ground, who harvests some animals sometimes and doesn't harvest animals other times, I will turn around and say, let the scientists do their job. Let the scientists do the work that's necessary to create regulated harvest structures and seasons and quit worrying about one animal because somebody thinks that somebody's out there turning around and loading up a semi-truck full of furs and then shipping it to China. That's a fallacy. That's a falsehood. That's a downright lie. Do some furs go to China? Yes. It's a market because market on fur-bearing animals falls under the guidelines of the North American model of wildlife conservation and responsible wildlife management. Read it. It's there. Valerius Geist and Shane Mahoney wrote it. It's there, but when you listen to the antis, to the extremists, they want to say that's not part of the North American model. Well, it's not part of the North American model if you're talking about game animals for meat. That's what was originally created. It specifically says in the model about legitimate use, and fur bearer harvest is a legitimate use, as is meat, as is conflict resolution or human health and safety, management of species. Those are legitimate uses. The antis don't want any legitimate use. They don't want us to eat it. They don't want us to wear it. They don't want us to salvage it. They don't want us to utilize it. So as you're paying attention over the course of the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and you're listening to my rhetoric, and you hear some of the guests that we've have on, make sure you pay attention to who's relying on whom to do the recommendations and the science. Whether you agree with Parks and Wildlife 100% of the time or 50% of the time or none of the time, they're a lot better than the alternative of allowing the florist in Denver or the Uber driver in Grand Junction to manage our Colorado wildlife. Thanks for listening. Keep updated. We'll keep going as we move forward on different things, but enjoy these 2 short podcasts from the Outdoorsman Days with Fred Eichler and Ralph Cianciarulo. And in the meantime, aim small, miss small, stay the course, follow us, share, like, subscribe. We're making a movement here, and we need your help. So we're here for another episode of Through the Gates podcast. This is a culmination of podcasts that we're going to do here at Outdoorsman Days. This is the 3rd annual Outdoorsman Day event here at Pathfinder Park in Florence, Colorado. And I'm just pleased to death to be able to have some communication with some of our presenters that were generous enough to give their time and just kind of get a little bit more intimate behind the scenes. A lot of stuff going outside here. But right now we got Fred Eichler. Fred is down from Aguilar, Colorado. And Fred is world-renowned in the sense to where if you mention Fred Eichler in the hunting and angling and trapping industry, somebody's either heard of him or has watched a lot of his stuff over the course of the last 10, 15, 20 years. So Fred, appreciate the opportunity and glad you got to come up. It was a little hot outside, but you had a good crowd on a Friday afternoon. And tell us a little bit about you and what you see from what you saw out there and what Colorado should be paying attention to when it comes to trying to continually protect hunting and fishing and trapping, like what we've been trying to do. You go all over the place. You hear it from everybody. Yes. What do you think we need to do? And give a little bit of background on something else that you want to talk about as well.
Well, then first, this is an incredible event. It's really fun to see so many people and like-minded people come together. And, you ramrodded this, and it's impressive. I mean, a lot of people were here taking days off their work to be here and support, Coloradans for responsible wildlife management. And that's huge to me.
Yeah.
And I'm super proud that so many people, like that last young man, as we were walking in here, he said, I felt like I had to be here to support it. And
There's an Amish
yes,
kid.
yes, sir.
Kid.
Super nice young man. He was here with his family, and there was so many. I'm seeing so many kids. You know what I mean? And that's great. Husbands and wives and kids, and it's really cool. But I think Colorado, there's a lot of scary things on our horizon right now.
Oh yeah.
And you've been at the forefront of a lot of that, and I know myself included. And it's one of the reasons I was happy to donate my time, and I think so many other people have been willing to support not only the state of Colorado, but also Colorado for responsible wildlife management, is because it's sound management.
Yeah.
I mean, it's science-based.
Yeah.
And I don't think wildlife management can be an emotional issue. It has to be science-based. And that's what all hunters that I know feel like. They feel like, let's base that on science. We're passionate. We love the animals. You know what I mean? Hunters and fishermen, it's in our DNA. I mean, cavemen, I was joking around earlier, cavemen didn't draw pictures on cave walls of their kids. They drew pictures of animals and hunting scenes. And as you know,
they were trophy hunters because they had that petroglyph on.
they always had big ones.
It is so small, bighorn sheep.
But, and you and me have talked about that. I think the non-hunting public sometimes, and I'm so glad that you and all the people that work with you are educating people to, there's this trophy, the word trophy, brings up some bad connotations to people. And I think it's important to break out that the largest form of respect that a hunter or outdoorsman or a fisherman can have for an animal, to me, is to not only utilize that animal, spend money to get a tag to legally harvest that animal, but then to utilize that animal. And that, to me, that means eating that animal. And yes, that may mean wearing a bear claw or putting that animal on your wall or utilizing the meat and being proud of that.
It's kind of like memorializing it. It's no different than taking pictures or the guys of yesteryear doing the petroglyphs, only ours is 3-dimensional. And it costs a lot more money to do that now than what it used to in the good old days. But it memorializes the animal as an accomplishment to the animal and to the management side and to the hunter and the harvester themselves.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. And CPW has done the Colorado wildlife is really a success story.
Yep.
You know what I mean? If you look at what we have, the number of species that are doing great, the CPW has done an amazing job. I think they have a real struggle right now, unfortunately, politically, in my opinion, with things that are, in some cases, I don't even think, and I'm speaking from my own personal opinion here, I don't think CPW in a lot of cases agree with. The wolf reintroduction, there's all kinds of things that are happening in Colorado right now that I think will have long-term effects on what we have done such a great job managing in this state, and that bothers me. So I think it's very important that people realize a lot of the false information being put out there.
Yep.
And to your point, being science-based. For example, in my talk earlier, a lot of people were shocked to hear that mountain lions kill more than 3 times the number of deer in the state of Colorado than licensed hunters do. And just to put it in perspective, and as a outdoorsman, as a conservationist, as a hunter, just like you, I love lions. I don't want to, I don't want to damage. Yeah, of course not. I want there to be lions for everybody.
Sportsmen and women are the ones that guided the ship from 1965 until present day, when they used to be considered a vermin, a predator that could be killed at will on site. 1965. They and we said this all through our campaign last year. They were estimating roughly 200 mountain lions on the landscape. Landowners and sportsmen and wildlife managers at that time decided to make them a big game species. Since then, the populations have increased almost 30-fold through regulated harvest and quotas and science-based wildlife management. And I appreciate you saying that, because those numbers sometimes fall on deaf ears for people to comprehend and understand where we started on lion management and where we are now. We have no problems with lion management except for animal rights extremism.
Yeah, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Look at the science, and the science shows that the CPW, leave it to the professionals to manage the wildlife, the people that understand it. And the men and women at CPW have done an amazing job. And like you pointed out, if you look at what we had in Colorado, to what, hunters and conservationists and CPW has done, it's impressive, really. And why mess with a perfect system? Why mess with a
So you and I have been in this arena for a long time as far as the hunting and a little bit of the public. You much more on the public side than I, but we have not always agreed with the old Division of Wildlife or Colorado Parks and Wildlife. We might have questions,
right?
But I think that we could agree that we would much rather have the scientists that we could at least interact with to make the logical, educated decisions, as opposed to leaving things up to the ballot, like what we've had since, for quite a while. And so when you see those ballot initiatives come up, Fred, do you cringe to the point where you go, "Oh, we're just going to lose another one"?
It's sad, and you pointed out ballot box biology does not work. You just like, I wouldn't want somebody off the street, if I had to have an open heart surgery, come in there and operate on me.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. I want a trained professional. I want a surgeon, and preferably a heart surgeon, to do that surgery. And really, wildlife management is no different. To have somebody off the street, although they may even be well-intentioned, at times, for them to come in and make a ballot box initiative or try and get a whole bunch of signatures for something that is not science-based, that makes zero sense. So yes, I do cringe, and yes, it scares me, because it needs to be turned back over to the professionals. No different than you allowing somebody to work on your heart in a heart surgery that came off the street and just thinks they can do it.
Yeah, I think I just want to start working on hearts and see what that Zoom. Then just kind of wing it.
Give it a shot.
We already did a ballot initiative about, I want to be a heart surgeon. If you want to be a heart surgeon, you just be a heart surgeon.
Let me be your heart surgeon.
Yeah.
I bet none of them would be okay with it.
I don't think they'd do that. They wouldn't want me doing their taxes either. I don't think. So there's fields of expertise,
right?
And the thing about wildlife management, for sportsmen and women to be able to play in this arena, and I say play because in Colorado it's not a right. We might and assume it's a right. It's a privilege.
Yep.
Until we get a constitutional amendment or until the law says that it's a right. It might be our God-given right, but there's laws, rules, and regulations that fall under the North American model of wildlife conservation. We understand that. When you saw the wolf deal happen after about a 20-some-odd year hiatus from 1992 to 1996 on Initiative 10, the bear initiative, and Amendment 14 on the trapping deal, and then the wolf deal came up, and then we lost. I say we as conservationists lost, and it's turned out to be not as easy as what maybe somebody had alluded to when they first voted on that. What did you think when you first saw Initiative 91 that became Proposition 127? Did you think we were going to lose that right off the bat? And what did it take to get you enthused about it?
You know what? I'm going to back up even further than that and go to when we lost spring bear hunting.
92.
That was one of the first, when it shocked me to the core, because I was like, whoa, wait a minute, what? Like the propaganda, the misinformation that was put out about that really bothered me, because I would see commercials on TV like, oh, you don't want to, you wouldn't want anybody to be able to, abandon these cubs or shoot a mother, a sow with cubs. And I'm like, you can't do that. And there's not a sportsman in the world that would do that, you know what I mean? Or a true hunter. So when we lost that, and then to see the impact that had on the state of Colorado. And when I say the impact, as you know, hundreds of bears, damage control bears, were being killed, even up to a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, 200 to 400 bears being killed in the state of Colorado by CPW officers, by game wardens that didn't want to shoot them. They were called because these were damaged animals that were causing issues. They were shooting them. Now, the problem I have with that, and the problem that every game warden I know has with that, is that meat was wasted. The hide in a lot of cases was wasted. You know what I mean? And there was such a revenue impact to the state of Colorado. So people didn't realize when they made that, we're going to stop spring bear hunting, which was, again, a ballot initiative.
Yep.
It had nothing to do with sound wildlife management. Then all of a sudden, people are watching as we're killing hundreds of bears and not giving them the respect they deserve, you know what I mean? And wasting the hide, wasting the meat, and the state of Colorado not bringing in revenue on those bears, but instead costing the state of Colorado money. So it's a negative. It's a negative.
Exactly.
So yes, and then from that point, every ballot initiative that has come up has been negative. And I wish we would look back just at, the history and see what it's caused when wildlife management isn't based on biology.
From your experience, you've traveled all around the country. You've seen things all around the world. when you tell somebody you're from Colorado, wildlife management comes into the conversation at some point in time because of the negative connotation that's been built up over the last 30 years. How do you explain to them when they say, how the hell are you letting that happen in Colorado? What's happening in Colorado? Because a tremendous amount of our listeners, your viewers, and the sportsmen and women come to Colorado as sportsmen to hunt as non-residents. They supported us defeating Proposition 127 by a landslide because they kicked money in from non-residents into our state because they have value and they have skin in the game. They have preference points. They like to hunt here. Their buddies here, whatever. Maybe they got property here. When you talk to them and they say, what the hell is going on in Colorado? How do you explain that to them so maybe they can become more educated and maybe they can get engaged before it starts to take hold in their state?
Man, that's a great point. And, sadly, and you've probably seen this too, there's some people boycotting the state of Colorado now.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Yeah.
and that's, I try to explain that to people. The impact financially has hurt this state by things not being science-based and run the way they should, by CPW, by ballot box biology, by some of the things that they're attacking, are causing issues with the revenue streams. But as far as educating other people, I'd literally try and tell them, stay involved. Be involved in events like this. You know what I mean? Be involved with your local and state organizations. It's super important. Don't just say you're an outdoorsman. Don't say you're a hunter or a fisherman. Put your money where your mouth is and join local and state organizations and be involved. If there's a meeting, in your state capital, go to the meeting and try and encourage other people to go to the meeting. Get yourself educated, learn what's happening in your state, and support other states. And, I think that's even, we've talked about trapping. We have to really come together as outdoorsmen and look at it as a big tent theory. If, let's say I don't grouse hunt, I'm still going to support other grouse hunters. So you want to ban
grouse hunting just because somebody else turns around?
Right. Yeah. Just because I may not, enjoy, I may not fly fish, for trout. You know what I mean? That may not be my thing, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to stand behind with money, any resources I have, and show up to support people that are legally harvesting trout with a fly rod. I think it's that important for all of us to get together and literally, or we're going to lose more.
I don't want to take too much of your time, but just a couple more questions, because it'd be great to get you on a full podcast and then turn around and continue to span this message at different levels. Have you heard about the citizens' petition to ban live bait for fishing in the state of Colorado?
No.
Yeah.
This is
citizens petition.
There's so many.
Yeah, and so a lot of the fishermen have said, well, I don't lion hunt, I don't predator hunt, I don't do this, so I'm not really into that. I'm not going to support this. I'll support banning it, or I'll be neutral on it. But now that the fishing deal has come to full circle, there's groups out there that want to ban live bait, which would be night crawlers and crickets and moths and leeches and you name it. They don't want you to use live bait, not so much because it's cruel and inhumane. It's because it's not fair. It's not part of fair chase. A lot of the sportsmen and women that we saw through this whole deal that didn't want mountain lion to continue, or some that wanted it to continue, now are come full circle and they're like, you're telling me my kid can't use a bobber and a worm
to catch their first fish, like their dad and their grandfather and their great-grandfather.
And now they're starting to see, maybe this is much broader than lions and bobcats and whatever the hell else, oh my. If you look at what we did on Ordinance 308 last year, which was the fur ban in Denver, just in the city and county of Denver, we had a hard time convincing people about the fur sale until you mentioned cowboy hats, fishing lures, and Native American crafts. And then they went, wait a minute.
They're trying to ban that
too? You're going to ban that too? Who the hell do they think they are? Now we're seeing the extremism go to the other side again because of this live bait component on the citizens petition. My point is, none of this will ever stop until we get them to stop. And you would have thought last year on 127, we'd have made a big difference to slow them down. No, they come back full force, and they still want me and they still want you, but now they want the fishermen. Now they want the lowest hanging possible fruit, the entry-level type stuff. CPW is doing a fishing derby for us here tomorrow at Outdoorsman Days in Florence. And by the time that this airs, it'll be done and over with. But these kids will be catching 1/2 to 3/4 pound perch and bluegill on worms and on salmon eggs and on crickets and whatever the heck else they're using. These people want to stop those kids from being able to do that. And it doesn't have anything to do about fishing. It has to do with conservation, and it has to do with wildlife management. And now people are starting to see the tides turn a little bit, that it's maybe not me as a sportsman. They want my kid. They want my grandkid. They want my next door neighbor's kid. When you're out and about, are you seeing more and more people get their kids engaged? Get people, try to get them engaged in the landscape. I just caught a few kids here for a Friday afternoon, but when you're out and about, do you see kids trying to get involved in different things?
I do. And you know, I love that. And it's great seeing that shift, as well as people getting more educated. See, people are starting to learn more. So, you know, I would like to see more of the boundaries taken down. And I know Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management feel that way too. I'd like to see more of the boundaries taken down and making it even easier to get kids or beginners into it. You know what I mean? And CPW has done that with, like, you know, the hunter safety, and you can mentor, you know, the mentoring program where you can get somebody in if it's their first time. So, you know, that's another thing that I would like to see. But yes, I do see a lot more kids getting involved. And to try and stop kids, it just kills me about this live bait thing, from doing what their parents did, their grandparents did, their great-grandparents did, what Native Americans did. You know, that's how you catch fish. And even if that's an entry level, that's how you start out. Maybe a kid catches his first fish with a worm and a bobber, and then he goes, wow, I want to try a bigger challenge, and I'm going to go to a lure, or I'm going to go to a fly rod.
Yeah.
But don't take that entry level from him and make it tougher for him to be proud of that fish and maybe take it home and cook it.
It's frustrating to see what society has become, that a minority becomes the squeaky wheel, and then they want to turn around and impose their beliefs, their ideologies, their methodologies on the majority. And when they're in positions like what we have currently here in Colorado, with particular people in the gubernatorial administration that will be out in November of 2026, not until January 2027, we'll have a new governor. But the ideology doesn't stop about conservation and wildlife management, science-based wildlife management. If you were to turn around and you've already made a suggestion about how to get involved and what to do and go to meetings, what do you see as the number one and number two most vulnerable components of what we are doing in Colorado and in the West to support the very thing that you and I are talking about?
People not staying involved. And I think you just touched on it. Fishermen, low-hanging fruit. People that don't fish, not supporting that. Trappers, bow hunters, muzzleloader hunters, muzzleloader hunters. You know, if we don't all stick together and protect each other and have each other's six, if you will, you know what I mean? Like, hey, what you're doing is legal, and whether I do it myself personally or have time for it, you know, time constraints keep people from a lot of different things. But just because I don't do it, I need to support your right to do it in the state of Colorado and other states as well.
Oh yeah.
But I think getting involved and realizing that, again, I'm going to use that big tent theory. We have to all stick together. We have to all stay involved, and hunters, fishermen, and even regular outdoorsmen, because I think, you know, and partially because Colorado's for Responsible Wildlife Management, you guys are getting the message out. Kayakers, I've talked to kayakers, canoers, you know, bikers, hikers that are starting to realize, wow, because of Pittman-Robertson Act money and things like that, hunters and fishermen have donated more money to allow us to recreate and do what we do, and also have people out there to help protect us, whether that's game wardens or park rangers and things like that, to manage it. That money is coming from outdoorsmen.
Yes.
So I think not just, you know, I think it's broader than that. I think it's a lot of it's people that just enjoy the outdoors, but especially hunters, fishermen, outdoorsmen need to all come together and support each other and go with sound science when it comes to managing any resource.
Taking into consider a few closing thoughts. The favorite thing that you like to hunt is what?
Whatever is in season at the time. I know
I knew that was
sorry,
coming.
but I love it all. I love it. If it's squirrel season, my gosh, I'm after a squirrel, and that's going to take 100% of my energy.
What does Fred Eichler have coming up this year that is really just cool, that you get a chance to maybe look forward to, that you've been wanting to do, or something that you just kind of on a moment's notice you're going to take advantage of?
Man, I love it all. You know, guiding with the boys, guiding with the other guides. You know, I love it. I love my outdoor lifestyle, and educating people. You know, I love that. On whether it's my YouTube channel or some of my social, we try and educate people and show them, hey, here's a great recipe. You know, here's a great way to cook a bear, for example. A great way to cook mountain lion. A great way to cook fish. Great way to cook a squirrel. You know, trying to educate people to what we love to do, because that's what we love, right?
Exactly.
We're passionate about it. We want to share that passion.
Yeah. What do you think? Final closing statement on how do you think Colorado Parks and Wildlife is dealing with the wolf introduction, given the fact that there's so much out of their control?
I think their hands are tied. To be honest with you, I think CPW, because of political restraints, I think their hands are tied. I think a lot of people in CPW that I know personally that can't speak openly are as opposed as we are about a lot of what's happening. But sadly, I think a lot of those people are on gag orders and can't speak openly. But I think they're in a very tough position. I think almost all the men and women that I know at CPW are super proud of the job that Colorado's done. And the Colorado Division of Wildlife before CPW, which I preferred, but the Division of Wildlife really did an amazing job of managing Colorado's wildlife resources. And I think they want it to be left in professionals' hands and be science-based.
I appreciate that very much. This is another edition of Through the Gates here at the Outdoorsman Days in August of 2025. I'm here with Fred Eichler, and we're going to try to compile this into a couple other podcasts with Ralph and Vicky Cianciarulo. We're going to do one with Jermaine Hodge. We got Ray Livingston that came in from Washington. We're going to try to put these things together. I just want to thank you for coming down, spending some time here, helping us try to give some exposure and saturation, educate the general public, and look forward to working with you down the road, Fred.
My pleasure. Sure. Thanks for everything you're doing for the state of Colorado.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. If you want to support a company that supported the efforts to defeat Proposition 127, then you need to support Davis Tent. Davis Tent has provided quality canvas goods for outdoorsmen for the last 50 plus years. For more information, go to davistent.com. If you want to support another business that was instrumental in helping us defeat Proposition 127, check out Salida Gun Shop. Salida Gun Shop in Salida, Colorado provides quality products, expertise, and knowledge from individuals that actually do what they sell. Go to salidagunshop.com. Listen to the advice of Cameron Haynes and support companies that are supporting your cause and your efforts. Minturn Anglers is one of those companies. Minturn Anglers provides product and fishing excursions in Colorado and are second to none. For more information, go to minturnanglers.com. I've got Ralph Cianciarulo.
Good.
I got the name right.
Yes, you did.
I can't spell it, but I can say it.
The worst half of Ralph and Vicky.
Yeah. She explained that outside.
Oh, yeah. Trust me, I know.
So Ralph and Vicky just did at one of our seminars here at Outdoorsman Days. I think we got like 25 different seminar presenters over the course of the 2 days. If anybody hadn't come to Outdoorsman Days, next year, it'll be the same weekend, first weekend of August. You ought to take a chance, come out and see some of the fabulous presenters that we've got, vendors, archery competitions, chuck wagon
Everything.
dinners, and we got everything.
You got everything.
Why did you come up, Ralph?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, it's the message. It's outdoorsmen. This is a lifestyle. You know, when people talk about hunting, they talk about fishing, they call it a sport. It's never been a sport to you, Dan. It's never been a sport to us. It's a lifestyle. You live this 24/7. And in today's world especially, you want to be polite, I guess. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes you don't really care.
Yeah.
But we need this. And for what you guys are doing, and with the conservation department, with everything, when you're putting all this together, and it's for the people, it's for the outdoors person, the people that love the outdoors and respect it. This is priceless. And giving them all the opportunities to do all this, it's a blast.
And that's one thing that we've been very, very fortunate to be able to deal with is, when we were fighting all of these issues over the last 6 or 7 years, and last year specifically with Proposition 127, people just looked at it as a mountain lion and a bobcat deal. And what we coined was the sportsman. I'm a sportsman. I'm a sportsman that lion hunts, or I'm a sportsman that bow hunts.
Or traps, or fishing.
Exactly. And you're quintessential because you do a lot of that.
Yeah.
You do a bunch of that. You travel around the world. You stay in the United States, but you hunt and pursue game from a lifestyle. This is who you are, what you do, how you live, what you breathe, what you eat. How did you and Vicky meet?
Actually, Vicky came to my archery shop. She came with her ex-boyfriend. I killed him, I got her. Just kidding. Okay, for all the legal company. Yeah, that was a joke. But no, and back then, things were easier. There was no social media. You know what I'm talking about.
Well, I didn't get social media until about 18 months ago, and I'm sorry that I did, but we needed it to be able to fight.
It's a great tool for messaging. The problem is you reach more people. So you're going to have, like I've always tried to explain it, Dan, is 20% of the people live our lifestyle in our population. 20% are totally against it. Screw them. We'll never make them happy anyways. But they hate life anyways.
Yeah.
But there's 60% of our population that walk that fence 24/7. And either we could have them on our side, or we could do something stupid, or we let other people make decisions that are totally erratic and, that are totally against true conservation. They'll go to that side.
Perfect example of what you just said too, Ralph, is watching the people watch you and Vicky in a seminar, or Fred before you, or Jermaine Hodge before them. The admiration, the respect, the awe that I want to be like them, or I want to know what they have, or I want to know what they do. I want to know how they can make me better. You're kind of like modern day conservation motivational speakers to some degree, because it's not all about just, getting out in the harvest. It's getting out in the pursuit of the harvest, the preparation for the pursuit of the harvest. When you talk to crowds like what you got here at Outdoorsman Days, do you see a glimmer of hope in people's eyes about maybe you could help them become successful? But then when you talk like you talked out there, you can also maybe help them try to sustain what they have to make sure they understand that it's very fragile.
Well, I truly believe that we all, just like what you're doing, we all have opportunities, and I call them privileges, to speak to certain people. I think the biggest thing in our world, when I say that, is this, the TV, the social, and all the digital crap that's out there, is putting your ego aside. Stop thinking it's all about you. I'll be 65 here in a few days. At a point in our lives, you start to realize, what have I done? What can I put back? But I was blessed because the way I was raised. My dad taught me yes, sir, and no, ma'am. Hold the door for a lady. And when you're brought up that way, your ego is put to the side right away, which is, I thank my mom and dad so, dearly for it. You know that you have an opportunity. It's just like I tried to teach my son, and it was one of the most, but it touched my soul. A very large corporation, the CEO, we introduced him at the SHOT Show. And Keith pulled me to the side. He said, Ralph, I just want to tell you something. I have hope. I looked at him, I said, well, not from me. Look at me. You ain't got no hope from me. He goes, that's the first young man, he said, that looked me in the eye, shook my hand, and said, hello, sir. That's all we're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have that, we have that little opportunity to say, listen, stop. And what with Vicky and I, we've always been about is, I don't care with what you hunt. If it's legal, and it may not be the way you want it or I want it.
Exactly.
But if it's legal, shut up. Let them do their thing, you do your thing.
If somebody wants to in some location wants to turn around and hunt a deer with a spear, and it's legal, and it has to do with an opportunity through wildlife and science-based wildlife management, if it has to do with that, I'm all for somebody's ability to be able to pursue that. They have spear fishing.
Yes.
They have crossbows for a variety of different things.
Yep.
I don't want to do that myself.
No.
But I don't want anybody to tell me that I shouldn't be able to use a cage trap to try to harvest a bobcat, or I shouldn't be able to use a pack of hounds and under the fair chase and ethics of the North American model, not be able to turn around and do that.
Yes.
We've gotten to a point to where we're starting to see a lot of people come to our side about why are they screwing with us? Why are they screwing with, and I just talked to Fred about this. Did you hear about the citizens petition that has been filed to ban the use of live bait in fishing?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes.
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 So,
yeah, what's it?
You just think about that, the lunacy of no crickets, no worms, no leeches, no minnows, no live bait. And it doesn't have so much to do with the ethics side of it on people's moralities. It has to do with fair chase. They're concerned about fair chase on fishing with live bait. I mean, look, what do fish eat? Live bait. But if we use it as a tool, now it becomes some sort of, well, they're bastardizing us, but
yes,
they're bastardizing the North American model. They're bastardizing the ability to be able to turn around and pursue wildlife that is regulated under the North American model of wildlife conservation.
One of the biggest faults that we have, people go hunting, they go fishing, honestly, and you know this, to fill their soul. I try to explain it. The easiest way to a non-hunter is I say, you go to work Monday, your truck, your car is on F for full. Towards Friday, it's almost on E. I said, you go to the gas station, you pump, you fill it up, and you're happy. I said, we who live the outdoors, Monday we're on full, we run to E. Friday we get in a mountain, we get in a tree stand or a ground blind, or we just hike somewhere and sit down. It goes from E
All the way back to
to
full.
full.
Yeah.
And that fills our
Perfect.
souls. But our problem is we do that because we love the serenity of being outside. And a lot of times that's singular, it's individually, or it's with one other person. So we already, we don't want to deal with arguments. We you know what I mean?
Oh,
We
yeah.
love to be out in the woods where it's quiet. So for all of us to band together is a tough thing. For all of us to turn around and say, listen, I don't care with what you hunt. Man, let's do it together.
Yeah.
Because we're so singular. You know, I wrestled in high school and college, all right? And that's a singular sport, but it's also a team. That's the same thing here.
Yep.
It's singular because you love being out there by yourself, sneaking around, because that's what we're supposed to do.
Yep.
God tells us to grab our bow and quiver and go into the woods. Who is a higher authority than that? But when we turn around and we try to come together and say, listen, I don't care with what you hunt. We need to stand together. They want to shut all this down. And there is no sound facts behind their emotional decisions. And it never will be.
No.
It's always by emotion. It's always about a political situation. And thanks to you and your fight with your team, if we didn't have it, we'd be screwed.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to look at and say that it was just me, by all means. I mean,
Yep.
I led the charge. I just told the young lady out there, she says, my uncle is a lion hunter. Thanks for saving lion hunting. And I said, I didn't save it. I helped save it. I led the charge. And I joke about a lot of things for a lot of different reasons, but we've gotten to a point to where when we are trying to promote the message and trying to get people to understand what we're doing on so many different levels, they have to be willing to pick themselves up by their bootstraps and turn around and make the call to action as well. Whether that's write a letter, whether that's turn around and send an email, whether that's show up to a Capitol, go to a commission meeting, doesn't matter. We're at a point now where we're starting to see a lot change in people's psyche and mentality because what we did last year, if you were to guess, compared to where we're at now, as far as public perception in Colorado, given the wolves, given the lions, look what we did on bears, look what we did on and we talked to Fred about this before, and I'll bring it up to Jermaine tomorrow. If you were to guess, do you think that the state is that bad off politically, or is it just the politicians that are that bad off politically?
Politicians.
Yeah.
Here's our problem. We as United States citizens have the ability to say yay or nay. But we continue putting people in who have more social likes, who have no validity, who have no experience, who have no knowledge, and based on just a like. We see it, what's going on in New York. We see it, what's going on everywhere, California. See it here. I can't say this is my home state. We live here now, but we're originally from Illinois, and Illinois politics, it sucked. It was horrible. I'm being honest.
Well, when I'm told that California and Illinois parks or commissioners are better than we've got, I'm like, what is this, like the Antichrist or what?
So what the messaging, what you got, what your team is, what you guys are doing is so great because you make it easy. The thing is people have to put aside their egos and go, you know what, I'm going to like this. Oh, wait, I'm going to get a couple friends to hate me because I took what your facts were and Vicky posted it. You know what I mean? She collabed. I don't even know all that fancy word stuff, but she did it. Well, there's other people. Oh, I agree. But yeah, I'm gonna upset,
Oh yeah,
Joe Schmo.
We see that.
Screw Joe Schmo.
Yeah.
Because Joe Schmo wants to take away your the privilege of hunting and fishing. They're going to do it with absolutely no education, no sound conservation message.
Nope.
So just keep doing what you're doing. Make it simple. And all I can reach out to everybody and say, listen, when you're getting these posts, share them. Screw the person that you're going to piss off because you know what? At the end of the day, they weren't your friend anyways.
And part of the education side, they're on the chopping block. It's just that they're not recognizing or fully understand or comprehend how volatile and fragile the entire landscape is because we're just 1 or 2 percentage point votes from rocking the boat one way or the other.
Absolutely.
Look what happened on the wolf deal, Proposition 114 and
How
20.
much did that cost the state so far now?
It's about $8.5 million, and they said 800,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
you look at what trapping did, you look at what bear hunting did, you look at all the things that have happened. And then when we won last year, I don't want it to be an anomaly. I want events like this, the exposure and saturation that we talked about with so many different people. Stay in people's faces, stay out there. You don't have to be offensive, but we need to make sure that when people understand why we do what we do it for the conservation, for the ability to pursue. And if we get a harvest, that's just icing on the cake.
Well, just look at the stats. Look at the success rates on everything. And when people would, if they would truly take the time to look at that, they would see they're minimal
Oh, yeah.
to the purchasing of hunting licenses, permits, tags. Minimal.
We said this during the campaign last year, Ralph. 9% success rate on elk hunting in the state of Colorado. 19% with houndsmen, and they're using hounds. 19%. That means 81% of the people are buying a license to go out and the opportunity to pursue a mountain lion, and those are the ones that are paying for science-based wildlife management, all of them in totality.
Yeah, all of them.
But they're not taking anything off except for the opportunity, the experience, and the decision to be able to turn around and harvest something if they so choose.
If.
Yeah. So your primary focus for method of take in Vicky's is what?
Archery.
Archery.
Yes, sir.
And
Grew up it. I love it.
and do you think, I won't put words in your mouth.
Yeah.
Take trapping, take predator hunting, lion hunting, whatever out. What's the lowest hanging fruit next?
Explain that again.
So somebody wants to take it away. You take trapping out, it's already gone.
Right.
Take predator hunting out, it's already gone. Where does the anti-extremist group go next if they've already taken the lowest hanging fruit out?
They're taking all of it.
Yeah, but what's the next thing?
Well,
You think they could go after archery more than rifle?
oh, absolutely.
You do.
I do.
Why?
Well, because they're going to claim that the numbers are lower, the success rate is lower, but they don't put the numbers in actual, cadence of where it all is. And I think what Dan, one of the biggest things for all of us is we all, and I'm not putting you, but I'd like to use the word all. I'm a team player. I'm not an I person. We are cannibalistic to our own.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, a keyboard gives someone gonads that never had them.
Yeah, that's...
I mean, really. So someone's going to jump on this. This person who just, Vicky and I were speaking, I don't mean to, but we were speaking in New York, and this guy comes up to us after, and he's talking to us, and he goes, I just want to tell you something. He goes, I've hunted for 5 years. I hunt public land. I haven't seen a deer. And the first question I asked him was, are you hunting this year? It was in January. He goes, yes. And I stopped everybody and I said, I just want to say something. I said, this gentleman right here is a true hunter. He's hunted 5 years, never seen a deer. Now, maybe he wasn't good, I don't know. But the reality of it is he's hunting area. He doesn't have private land. He doesn't have anything, no access. So he's using public land, and all the people are probably walking past him or whatever. It doesn't matter. He was still going out.
Yeah.
He was still buying a license. He was still participating in this lifestyle. That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
Now, that man probably, I haven't kept in contact, and that's bad on my, but he might have shot a deer. Might have shot a 3-point or a 5-point.
Maybe got to
And he
go.
probably posted it, and people got on, how dare you? Why didn't you wait till he was 6.5? What? They don't know any of the backstory on that guy.
Yeah.
And that guy was more of a hunter than most of those people with the keyboards.
And I think the grip and grin side of things, being able to turn around. I remember in the day, of course, you and I are a similar age. I didn't have a cell phone that I could just turn around, pull it out, and show somebody 3,800 pictures.
Oh, God.
I had maybe a little book that I carried that might have had 6 or 8 or 10 or 15 pictures in it. Or maybe had a photo album. And they came to the house, you opened it up and said, here, look at all my photos from when my kid was born and the first calf that he raised, and whatever. The grip and grin side of things from the sportsman community has been somewhat of a downfall to us.
Absolutely.
Because a picture is worth 1,000 words, but the video is worth 1,000,000. And so when somebody sees somebody gripping and grin something and holding it down, really proud of their success, or maybe it's a monumental take and a big buck or something, that picture resonates with a certain amount of people, but it also offends other people.
Yes, sir.
But when you show the video of that animal getting killed by a bow or a rifle or whatever, now you just turn around and the ones that were thought it was distasteful, now they find it disgusting.
Oh, they hate it.
And I think that those are things that we probably haven't done very good over the course of our time. And you guys have a television show.
Yes, sir.
And Fred has a television
Yep.
show. Laramie here's had television shows. Do you think that some things that we've done in the industry has not been helpful because it actually exacerbated things on the social media side to where, because you get one chance to make a first impression.
Yes, absolutely.
So you guys, from what I've seen, it's tasteful, it's ethical, there's morale there. I mean, you just look and you can tell the people that do it differently than other people. I find that distasteful on my end when people don't do it as tasteful as what I've seen you guys do.
Well, thank you for that. But I'm gonna look at the camera and tell everybody I truly believe that TV and social media has hurt us.
Yeah.
And I make a living doing it. And I'll tell you this real clear. One, hunting ain't easy. It's never been easy. Unless you want to go in, a fence and do what you want to do. But that's not hunting, that's shooting, as you know. People, you make it, especially when people do it for all the wrong reasons. And there's hunters, true hunters, that do it for all the wrong reasons. I was with a gentleman, and everywhere we hunted together, he had the first 4 pages of all the record books. Guy had more money than God, you know what I mean? But that was his drive. And I never saw him smile. Never saw him enjoying
Just wanted to get bigger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. That's one side of it. Then you have the other side that people are pressured to shoot a big animal.
It's almost like it's a competition.
Absolutely. Not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And really, hunting, the only competition you have is with nature, with the wildlife that you're pursuing. You know what I mean? And it's, the kill is anticlimactic to the whole adventure that got you in that position to draw that string or squeeze that trigger.
Oh, yeah.
But we don't show that because you only got 22 minutes. We show it.
Because you got 22 minutes on a half-hour show.
Yep. And now next week, you got to shoot something bigger because then people don't think you're a good hunter.
Yeah.
Bull crap. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
They're still, and I think, and you'll tell me if you agree with me. And if you don't, you say, Ralph, shut up. There's still the world record elk. There's still the record bighorn, whitetail, mule deer, and everything sitting in somebody's barn that don't give a dang
Oh, yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
They
In
hunted.
fact, I've seen some animals that somebody harvested in the 1930s or 50s or 70s that never got entered anywhere. And I'm like, you should do that. And they're like, why?
Why?
Grandpa knew what it was. We've known what it was.
How cool is that?
Well,
How cool is that?
And you see these other ones that it's like, soon as it hits the ground, it's loaded on Instagram or Facebook. I mean, it's still steaming. The eyes haven't glazed over. And I'm like, if you could keep that synthesized and controlled, certain people would appreciate that.
Yes.
But the majority of the general public does not, because they don't look at it any other way than what it appears through that video.
Here, look at me.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Yeah.
Look what I killed. Look what I took. You know what I mean? And the sad part is true wildlife management, and you know this way better than I, hunting is a major aspect of that.
Yes.
Major.
Yes.
And making sound decisions are based on facts, not emotions. If we can get people to understand that, you know, wolves. I mean, let's.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
That's
boy.
a topic of the day. You got
You know,
a dozen emails today about wolves.
Oh, yeah, right? Look at Yellowstone. When they introduced the wolves, right? They said it's only going to take the old and the sick, right? It's taken the majority of all of it.
Yes. Yes. And here, they still say they don't prey on livestock.
Oh, no.
It's only going to do this. It's only
What's
going
the
to...
budget already spent? $8 million?
Yeah, we were just talking about that. $8 million over. Yeah. And I think that the general public is starting to see not so much the lies or fallacies or falsehoods, but maybe the missing the mark, missing the guess. We're going to do this for 600,000. We're going to do this for 800,000. Well, Colorado is not Wyoming, Montana, or Idaho. It's actually 3 times the amount of population that all 3 of those states are combined.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, 3 times the amount. 84 million visitors in the state of Colorado. Those 3 states combined had 54 million visitors. There's a big difference. If I was a wolf here and I was brought here, I would be heading to Wyoming and trying to go through the gauntlet up there, just like what a lot of them have already. But I can tell you that the way that we're seeing people's perceptions change about wildlife management because of freaking ballot box biology. I interviewed a bunch of young women, a couple were at this show, through this whole process of the campaign. And when I asked them specific questions about Proposition 127, more often than not, those young ladies said, why do we even get a chance to vote on this? I'm an aeronautical engineer, or I'm a medical physicist, or whatever. Why are we voting on this? We don't know squat about mountain lions. And I think when 23 or 25 or 30-year-old, 40-year-old women decide that they're not the experts,
Enough is
that's why we won last year. It wasn't because they believed me so much. We kept saying believe Parks and Wildlife. But a lot of those young women, the mothers of the families, the mothers of two, the ones that make a lot of the decisions, the ones that maybe make the bread and butter for the family,
Yeah.
they turn around and saw that this is not the way to turn around and do something scientifically. And I think that the antis have a tough road to toe to turn around and try to convince them to do otherwise.
Well, just hearing that alone, Dan, I'll tell you right now, it gives you hope.
Yep.
Really.
Much so.
It gives you hope. Because that's the thing. When you look at, I don't care what channel you're watching in the news, or you're listening on social media or a podcast, you sit there and go, oh, man, this is getting worse and worse. But when you hear stuff like that, and that's real, it's not set up to be a political statement. You know what I mean? It tells you, hey, maybe this next generation is smarter than we thought,
Exactly.
or paying more attention to true conservation than false.
I think that the road that we're going down, and now that people like you and Vicky and Fred and many of the others are helping us step up and prop up what we created here in Colorado, not so much that we have the playbook and the matrix to everything, but without the social media and without the influencers and without the television celebrities, it's hard to get that message out because it has to be repetitive. It's exposure and saturation. If they see it on Facebook and they see it on Instagram, they see it on TikTok, then they see it on another social media page, then they see it on television, or they see it when you're at a Cabela's or Bass Pro or Shields or Outdoorsman Days, it starts to click.
You're right.
To where it becomes part of the normal conversation. And I just got to say, thank you very much to give us your time. I know you guys are busy. You're up at the Springs tomorrow for Bass Pro or Shields.
Yep.
And you guys have the opportunity to talk to a lot of people. And I saw the awe of people standing in line waiting to talk to Ralph and Vicky.
More Vicky.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, they wanted to talk to Vicky about Ralph. But when Fred was here, there was a young Amish gentleman out there, and he just stood there just like any other, but he doesn't watch television. He's read all Fred's articles. And he was enamored by the fact that Fred Eichler was standing in front of him. We have the opportunity to connect with a tremendous amount of different type of people and get them to understand. And I'm not near in the class of what you guys are.
Buddy.
I'm doing it on the political side.
It's all a team.
That's what it is. To get people to understand that it's not about your personal goal.
No.
It's about the goal of science-based wildlife management and perpetuity. And I just got to say, thanks for taking the time out and coming up and spending some time in the hot, or even though it's shaded, it's hot. And maybe next year we can talk you into it if we get on your schedule.
Oh, buddy, if we're here, if we're around, we're here.
Okay.
I'll tell you that right now. It's great people. And again, it's a cause that's so worth it. That to come out here and everybody's sharing it and everyone's lives the same lifestyle, and at the end of the day, you just walk away high-fiving and fist pumping and going, we got a chance.
You feel like you do something.
Yeah.
Ralph, thank you very much. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Through the Gates. For more content like this, make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe on all of our channels.